Hello, everyone, and welcome to Heart Healing Conversations, a place where we normalize the emotions that come with navigating life, a place where grief is honored, healing is possible, and hope gently finds its way back into our hearts. Whether today finds you carrying grief, searching for hope, or simply needing a quiet moment to breathe, we're honored you're here. Hi, everyone, and I'm so excited. I'm here today not only with Janna, a fellow grief recovery method specialist, but today we have joining us Ed Owens, who is the vice president of the Grief Recovery Institute. And while I know his story and what brought him to the Grief Recovery Institute, I think that he's the best one to share it. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Ed.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Dawn and Janna. It's great to see you again.
Thank you.
I'm honored to be here. For all of you that are tuning in and listening in, stay to the end. Like, subscribe, follow. I'm going to throw that in because I'm on a lot of these podcasts, so I'm going to put a plug in. You guys need to like, subscribe, leave chats, do whatever, and really listen to the conversation because this conversation is for you. I want to say how grateful I am for the opportunity to be here, and for all of you who are listening, your time is valuable, so thanks for tuning in. My journey here. Folks, I'm going to start out by saying I never thought I'd ever, if you'd have asked me 20 years ago, hey, where do you think you're going to be in 20 years? This is not something that would have made the top 500 list of things that I thought I might be doing. I had a whole different world I was living in at the time. My background was a dual career. And that dual career was the U.S. military, and I would eventually retire at almost 21 years as first sergeant with the U.S. Air Force, 4 combat tours. I loved being in the military. And on the civilian side, I was a police officer, worked for a lot of different agencies, state, local, and federal. And folks, I'll just tell you right now, like, emotions were not something that was embraced. Emotions were something that would get in the way and would either get you hurt, get somebody else hurt, or worst case, would get somebody killed. And so emotions were dangerous. I was taught, trained, and experienced to compartmentalize if something was a bad day or there was a bad situation. I was taught to, be strong and move forward and, mission first and all of these other things that I was taught. And it allowed me, honestly, to move through life, but it was a survival mode, is really what it was. I learned how to survive the most difficult, challenging things that life threw at me and figure out how to get to the next thing. I will tell you what it did is over time, it really chewed away at my capacity to enjoy life, to enjoy living in the present moment, to build and maintain meaningful interpersonal connections with other people. But hey, something, we use the tools we got till we learn better tools. And they worked for me, right? And they did. And not well, but at least I figured out how to make it work. And they all worked until they didn't work. And there's a lot of things that have gone on in my life, things I've experienced. But there was one loss that was a bridge too far. There was one loss that broke the proverbial camel's back. And everything that I thought I had figured out didn't work. Every wall I'd ever built to protect myself from being hurt was overwhelmed. And those walls came crumbling down, and I found myself drowning in a sea of pain. It was incredibly dark, and all I could see or feel was the pain of the death of my 3-year-old son. And that was it, folks. That was the loss that literally changed my life and changed my trajectory. And ever since then, my life has been about getting my life back, living the best version of me, healing from the things that have hurt my heart. And then I'm just lucky enough that I get to go out into the world and help other people get their lives back, heal their hearts, do the work they want to do to create the lives they want to live. And so that's what I get to do now. But 20 years ago, if you'd have said, hey, you're going to be one of the most heart-centered people, and you're going to go out there and help people with the most emotionally painful things, and you're not going to be in your head anymore. You're going to live in a place from your heart. I just said, you're nuts. You're crazy. That's not me. You obviously don't know who you're talking to, but that's where I'm at, folks. It's the best journey I've ever had in my life.
Well, thank you so much, Ed, for sharing your journey with us. My heart goes out to you. I can't imagine how that's been for you and losing a child. And I also know, because I know you well, that you have chosen to turn this into a gift, and you help people every single day navigate really difficult things, whether it's loss of a child or a loss of a spouse or loss of a job, a home, whatever it is. You're always there with an open heart. So thank you for the work you do. It's so incredibly important in our world today.
You're very welcome. I love what I do. I do love that. I love helping people who need help.
Well, and I think all of us, Ed, Janna, and I, we can all say that watching people's lives transform, being in that place to help them transform their lives, it's such a honor. It's such a beautiful gift that we're given to be able to help other people.
Absolutely.
So one thing I really want to talk to both of you about, because both of you have gone through the loss of a child, is this belief. We hear so many times in life that certain losses are a life sentence of pain. And I know both of you heard that after losing a child. So I'd really like both of you to talk about that and how that's, affected your life and your journey really in healing.
Yeah. Well, great. And Janna, you want to go or you want me to?
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
Okay. So, it's like any of us, right? We go through something painful in our life, a loss, whatever that loss is, right? Whatever that transition in life that it doesn't feel good. And we look for people to help us out. And so, if I go through X experience, I'm going to look for people that have been through X experience. If I'm struggling with how am I going to make it through this huge, big ending or change it from a pattern of behavior, right? I'm going to seek out people that may know more than I know and have been there and can sit there and give me some type of insight, like, please, right? Like, I'm lost. You've been there. Help me. And so it's natural that we seek other people out for like experiences, for lack of a better term. And I did the same thing. I sought out other people. And it's amazing when you're going through something, how you can see the universe, you call it God, you can call whatever you want, puts people into our lives, right? At the time, and just before I'd lost my son, there were people in my life that I had been brought into their lives who had lost their sons or their daughters. So I knew some of these people. I didn't really have anything valuable except for just that I cared about these people to do for support. So I turned to them. And, lo and behold, they're sharing where they're at. They're sharing their experiences. They're sharing all types of things. And I kept hearing this. I heard some valuable things. I did. There's some things that other people who had lost a child shared with me that have been helpful to me, that are part of my healing journey. They didn't help me to deal with what was emotionally unfinished in my relationship with Ryan. But they did help me in some little ways. But they also shared a lot of things that weren't very helpful. And the number one thing they said was to lose a child is a life sentence of pain. And that one right there, I had a visceral reaction to. How could one of the things that was the deepest source of joy, love, connection, light, beauty in my life now be this darkest, most painful source in my life? Like, that didn't make sense to me, and it didn't feel right. Like, everyone kept saying, well, and not only is it a life sentence of pain, but there's also this pecking order of grief. There's this pecking order of pain. And if you've been here, lost a child, you know something? you're in the first place slot. I'm like, well, since when is this a competition? Like,
Mhm.
that didn't feel right to me either. Like, I don't want to be in this competition. I don't want to have these experiences. And there's no way you can tell me that this is the rest of my life. And so for me, I did internally, my intuition, my soul had a visceral reaction. Like, that's not true. And if that's not true, there has to be something that's true out there. And so I started looking for it. It just took me 5 years, counseling, therapy, medications, yoga, and meditation, whatever. You get into the yoga thing, I'm like, I'm supposed to try and do that, but I just can't quite do that. Like, just can't force myself to go there. But everyone says, hey, it's great, right? Whatever, fly fishing. I mean, I pretty much have tried everything, folks, because I didn't believe it. And thank God I didn't believe it. And thank God I kept searching, because eventually someone said, hey, you ever heard of this thing called the grief recovery method? I hadn't. I was so desperate. I literally signed up not really knowing what I was getting into. Boy, that was the best decision of my life. So that was me, Janna. I don't know about you, but I didn't like what they told me, and I didn't like that it was a competition, and I sure didn't want to be playing this game.
Yeah, I'm with you. I definitely did not sign up for this lost group. That was not ever on the agenda. I didn't have kind of the circle around me to support and offer, because not many people that I knew had gone through this kind of loss. Many tried to compare with me. Well, I've had a miscarriage, but they didn't understand the rest of it, going full term and having a stillborn. And so most of the time I heard either, yes, you're going to be miserable the rest of your life, just get used to it, or the opposite of that, of it's just time to get over it. You've had plenty of time, just get over it. You can't deal with this every day, just move past it. And those were the two that really stuck out to me, because I know, for one, I couldn't just get over it. This was a part of me. There was no letting it go that easy, especially not dealing with all the feelings and the emotions and everything that I had to deal with. On the other side, with them telling us, this is what you're going to suffer with the rest of your life, I didn't believe that either. I knew I was not put here to be in a source of so much pain every day for the next, 80 years, whatever I'm here. I just knew that wasn't right, but I didn't have really much support around me to help me fight and get out of it. And it was through, actually, a friend that went through grief recovery that mentioned it to me. I had been just desperately seeking, like, what can I do? I need something to help me. And she actually reached out and said, hey, this is helping me. Do you think you'd be interested? And I knew immediately, yes, this is what I need to do. I didn't know why, didn't know anything about it, but I jumped on it. And within the first couple of sessions, I was in love with it. I was like, this has to be shared with the rest of the world. And so I had to come on with you guys and become a specialist as well, because the tools that we learn are just so life-changing, and the circles that we grow in, creating that extra support that we all need on a daily basis, has been, again, life-changing.
Yeah, I agree. And I can still remember all the unhelpful things people said to me back then. And it's like some of the unhelpful things they said to you. And, if you're listening to this, folks, one takeaway I hope you hear is, obviously, to experience any loss is never, ever a life sentence of pain. That's a choice, right? Just like we can choose to want to do something to feel better, to heal, to move beyond the pain that we're stuck in right now. So I hope you hear that loud and clear. That's a choice. And you have the option to make a different choice. You're always a choice, right? So it's not a life sentence of pain. Number two, you're always a choice. You can choose, right? To go on a mission, plus seek something out, to talk to either one of these lovely ladies who can help you, or anyone else. Like, doing nothing, you will have the same day tomorrow you have today, right? Absolutely. Or we can try to do something different. The other thing I want to take away, if you're listening to this, whether your heart has been pulled to this because you yourself are hurting, or somebody else who's hurting and you're trying to be that friend who's trying to help them. What Janna brought up is a super important point, right? The most loving, well-meaning of us. And I'm that boy. I look back in my life, I'm like, man, did I say some things that I was trying to be helpful, but they weren't very helpful. In hindsight, I'm like, boy, I got a lot of cleanup on aisle 7, 14, and 21 at the same time, because I said some things because I'm just trying to be, I'm trying to be caring. But again, we do the best we can with the tools we have to learn better tools. People will try to say things that are helpful to us, like I've done in the past. And we never know how the other person hears it. And we might sit there and say something that is incredibly intellectually true. Like the loved one who we desperately miss is in a better place. And if your beliefs are that that is a better place and it exists, that's great. Now, what does that have to do with how much my heart hurts that I miss them? Right? Both can be true at the same time. And so much, we're all socialized to try and lean in and support another person and say something loving and provide an intellectual truth that has nothing to do with the emotional pain that person is feeling. And I bet if all of you listening sat down, hit pause on this video and said, has anyone ever said something like that to me? All of you would be like, yeah. And then now next question, how'd that feel? My answer is, I'm probably going to get back if you put something in the chat, would be like, that did not feel very good. I did not like it. We're not friends anymore, or something along those lines. So if you're looking for something that's loving and supportive, folks, I tell people all the time, number one, show up. Just show up for someone. Because most of the time when people are like, oh, I don't want to hurt them. I don't want to say anything. I don't want to bring something up. Like they disappear. I don't know about you, Janna, or you, Don. Like people who we thought would be there for us, they're so uncomfortable that we don't see them. And then when they come around, they are so uncomfortable. It's like, who's supposed to be more uncomfortable in this moment? Them or me? Right? So show up. And you can just say, I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. Right?
Yeah.
Is it okay if I just sit with you?
Yeah.
And something I've learned over the years of doing this work too is, oftentimes we don't want to remind someone of a loss, like the loss of a child, like on the anniversary of their death, on their birthday. But the thing is both of you know this, as parents who've lost a child, you want to remember your child. And even if nobody says anything about your child on those anniversaries, those birthdays, you remember them. And so it's helpful to actually say something because it tells people that you still care. You still care about their loss. You still care about that loved one that's no longer there.
Absolutely. I call it the big elephant in the room. Everybody sees the elephant, but nobody wants to look at they don't even want to look that direction, and they sure don't want to say anything about what they see, right? And so everyone avoids. And there's another time, whether it's a birthday or something else, but there's another time, folks, if you're listening to this, and all of it, this applies. It's not, again, to lose a child is a very devastating loss. I'm not going to lie to you. But so is it to lose a beloved pet. So is it to have a marriage and a relationship of 10, 15, 20 or more years now ends either due to death or divorce or estrangement. I mean, all these things are devastating. And the reality of it is, it becomes the elephant in the room for that person. For each of you listening, you have your own elephants in the room that your friends don't want to ever bring up because they don't want to say anything to hurt you. And Dawn's absolutely right. We are thinking about this person. The holidays are another time. Whether the chair is literally and figuratively empty, I always can see the empty seat at the table. And that's just a reality. And I think for those of you who are listening, again, there's no pecking order of loss. For many of you listening, you may have, I guarantee you, unless you are like 3 years old, you have probably not experienced, and at that point, haven't experienced much grief and loss. But I would arguably say the child whose favorite toy gets lost is grieving at 100% as much as I was grieving the death of my son. And someone will be listening to that going, what? That's not true. Oh, yes, it is. Because we all grieve at 100%. For those of you who are listening to this, right, I guarantee you can rattle off the empty chairs, and you know who's not in your life that you think about, if not daily, very often every week. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with you. That's normal and natural. It is the people around us when we're hurting who are well-meaning and well-loving most of the time, right? Who are not helping us to have the normal and natural reactions we need to have.
Mm-hmm. Well, and one thing I love about this work is that we can teach people how to be more compassionate and loving when the people they care about are going through some type of transition or loss in their life. Mm-hmm. That's so much of our work is just teaching that.
Yeah, it is.
So I have a question, Ed, for you, because you're the vice president of the company. I know that you consistently deal with talking to people who say, I've tried therapy, I've read books, I've been to workshops, retreats, and none of them have worked, and nothing's going to make me feel better. So why is this going to change anything? Why is doing the grief recovery method any different? So I'd love to hear how you answer that.
And I get that question a lot. So thanks for asking. Yeah, it's true. And, and I tell people in a general sense that people who are grieving are some of the most abused people on the planet. And I will argue that till the cows come home. Because we try a lot of things. People have said, oh, this is the best thing ever. This will help you. And then we try it and it's like, but I still hurt. And well, maybe you should try this. I'm like, okay, I'll try that. And again, my heart has sympathy and empathy for these folks because that was my journey, right? Mm-hmm. And what I tell folks is there's a lot of really great programs and things in this world. Like I said at the beginning of this conversation, right? I found other people who shared with me things that were very helpful, but they didn't get me to where I wanted to be, which was dealing with all of the pain that was destroying my life. It was eating me alive. Like I couldn't get to that point. So when I talk to people who ask that question, I acknowledge the fact that they've done a lot before they even talk to me. In fact, the act of even scheduling a call or getting on my calendar or having a face-to-face Zoom or a phone call, that right there speaks to how much they are looking for a solution. Mm-hmm. And why are they still looking? Is because what they have tried in the past may have helped a little bit here or a little bit there, but it's still something's missing. And if that's true for you listening to this, that's okay, right? We're wired like that on purpose. We're going to keep looking until we find it. And our big difference, folks, quite simply, is most of the things that are out there in the world will do a few things. They will reinforce that what you're going through is a massively painful event. Well, I don't need a book or a class or a circle of people in a room to tell me it hurts. I know this, right? But there's a lot of that out there. They're going to describe what it's like. Well, that's not what I'm looking for. There's a lot of other things that are out there where we come together in fellowship, which, again, I love. Anything that gets somebody out of that place of isolation, that little emotional dark jail cell that we put ourselves in when we're hurting, right? And connects me with other human beings is a good thing. But where are we different from that? The difference is those typical support groups, environments, communities, right? It reinforces our identity that it's a life sentence of pain, which I don't like. But what it does do is it does give some connection. But it doesn't do anything to heal or recover or deal with or finish what is unfinished in these relationships. And that's where we're different. The method is about taking us from that place that we all find ourselves sometimes for decades. We know it hurts. We know that talking about it for years is not getting me out of that place, right? In fact, if anything, when we talk about it every other week or every week, it's like, okay, I feel better. I'll see you next week when I need to relieve some more emotional energy. But we keep talking about the same thing for decades. We are about moving beyond that. We are completely an action-based program that is about, like, here's where you're at, here's why things hurt as bad as they do, and more importantly, let me show you what you can do to take some actions to deal with all of those things. Because when we deal with the pain that we are carrying, we don't have to carry it anymore. And society should have taught us how to do this. In a perfect world, wouldn't that have been awesome? Because it would have saved me a ton of heartache. Right? But that's not the way it works. So, that's what I do. That's what we do. And for those of you listening, these two lovely ladies, that's what they do and can help you do in your life, is they can literally show you some very, they're not easy things to do. They're painful things to do, of course, but they can show you how to do it one little step at a time. They're going to show you how to do it. They're going to walk with you and help you to do it. And then you are going to do it in such a way as you free yourself. And that's our difference. We're not just going to say, hey, we'll see you next week. Let's talk for another hour. And we keep doing this for 20 years. Right? That's our difference. And so if you like how things are going in your life, I tell people this. Hey, if you like how things are going and everything you're doing is working great, which secret Wizard of Oz, look behind the curtain. If they're talking to me, that's not true. They're still looking for something. And I know this. I may not tell them that. And if you're listening to this, I hope you are laughing about that. But I know that's also true, right? Like if you're reaching out to me or one of these ladies, somewhere in the back of your mind, your intuition is saying, but yeah, I'm still missing something. I'm still missing something. And the missing piece, folks, is what can I do with this pain in a way that I don't have to live with it anymore? And if that's what you're asking about, if that's what you are seeking, we do have something that you can do. Because this whole thing we call the method, the grief recovery method, bottom line, folks, this was born of a griever's heart. It's not because if I could go back and talk to some folks 100 years ago when they started labeling things, I wouldn't call it mental health. I'd call it emotional health. Right? Because I think when we mislabel something, it's like going to the doctor with your stomach is, you have a broken arm and your doc says, hey, it's your stomach. Here's some Pepto, but my arm. But no, it's your stomach. Like if we don't identify what it is, we can't deal with it. And I think we got away from the heart of the matter, so to speak, because we call it mental health. Well, the bottom line is my brain's not broken. My heart needs healing, right? And so it's really about emotional well-being. It's about our emotional health. And God, there are some different things that we can do, right? And that's why we're different. And that's what this method is about, because it's about emotional well-being. It's about emotional healing. And it's about what can I do to take that emotional step to get rid of that emotional pain.
Thank you for sharing. Janna, so when we started the conversation, you had said, within a couple sessions, you noticed a difference. So I want you to talk a little bit about that.
I just remember being so down on myself and just unable to function. I couldn't plan dinner. I couldn't go get groceries. I would not get out in people. I ordered stuff in and went and picked it up, or made Andy go pick it up. I refused to people and be around anybody that could flare any of my emotions. And like I said, I couldn't function as a mom taking care of my kids. And so that was my big, I have to do something so that I can continue to move forward taking care of my kids. And in those first couple of sessions, I could just feel the weight being lifted off of my shoulders, just in having somebody that listened and allowed me a space to feel heard, like that my emotions mattered and that what happened to me mattered. And it was just small, subtle changes where I felt more compelled to spend more time with the kids playing, or hey, I can remember to take out something to eat for dinner tonight. And just opening up those options for me to see more of myself returning. And it was just so quick and so amazing to me to feel that difference, that I knew this was the only way out for me. I had to continue forward, and I had to be able to share this because it was so powerful.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you for sharing that story. Yeah, I remember when I ended up in the room to go to the training to be a grief recovery method specialist. I thought, well, I don't have any grief. I mean, yes, I've lost a couple grandparents, but I wasn't that close to them. And then I got in the room and they started talking about what grief really is. It's not just related to death. And I thought, wow, this is why I felt so heavy. This is why I've been lacking the joy in my life that I've dreamed about for years, because all of this unprocessed emotional pain, I didn't have the tools to deal with it. So I just been carrying it as baggage in my backpack and didn't know how to unload any of it. So, I love the grief recovery method. And, this isn't a sale for the grief recovery method. Really, what we're trying to do is normalize grief, normalize talking about it, and help people see that it's not a life sentence of pain. We can heal and we can thrive again in life and find joy. There's so many unhelpful messages that are spread by well-meaning people, but the fact is most of us aren't educated on what grief is. I mean, it's every week I talk to someone and they're like, well, I have this situation going on in my life. This happened to me this morning. But this isn't grief. I said, yes, that is grief. Estrangement is grief. It definitely is. And then they followed it with, well, it's just life. And it breaks my heart when people say that. Yes, painful things happen to all of us in our lives, but that is a very, like Ed's pointing to his head, that's a very intellectual statement. Our hearts still hurt, right? And so we need to find tools to help us process that emotional pain so we can move forward in a different way. And it doesn't have to be a life sentence of pain. So I think this has been a great conversation. And I think Ed will want to do more episodes with you because you're just full of wisdom. I mean, I know we're all grief recovery method specialists, but you take some pretty difficult calls every day being the vice president. So I want to thank you both for your time today. And let's schedule another episode soon. But for everybody else, thank you for joining us. Please follow us. This is on Substack, YouTube, Apple, and Spotify now. So please also share it with people that you might think this episode would be helpful for. And you will find all of our contact information in the notes below. But thank you so much for spending the time with us today.
Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for having me as a guest.
You're welcome. Thanks, Ed. Thanks, Janna.
Yep. Thanks, guys. See you later.